A nice afternoon here in Philadelphia. Got out there and got some fresh air, put a few miles in walking. If you get a chance, you should get out there and do the same. Not here in Philadelphia necessarily, wherever you're at. So much going on today. And I want to start off today's show with something that really pissed me off when I saw it today. That is to say, there's been unrest in Ireland for the past week, or particularly last Thursday, over these migrants stabbing five Irish citizens, and subsequently the Irish people showing that they're pissed off about it and took to the streets of Dublin. Well, anyway, there's been a lot of social media activity. I've been prominent in it, along with others like Conor McGregor, who is right now the voice of the Irish people. Anyway, there was a banner today that just simply said, Irish Lives Matter. Now, this was in Ireland. I believe it was in Belfast, and it may have been hung in other places in Ireland. The police now are investigating the Irish Lives Matter banner as hate speech. That's how far Ireland has fallen. Of course, we saw this in America. If you said white lives matter, you were also considered a racist because you were downplaying, the whole thing, black slaves and whatnot. So this is just the left in high gear again, but it's also a much larger issue. It's the globalists going after free speech. You remember, this is their bread and butter. That's why they're, as far as maintaining their tyranny, they must have censorship. That's why when you hear this, oh, it's just anti-hate legislation, bullshit. Okay? It is a whole umbrella of things, not just misgendering. It's, I think the Irish anti-immigrant. If you disagree with the Irish government's policy on letting unvetted migration come in, you're also going to be on the receiving end of this hate speech legislation. Now, folks, it's serious because they're going to put you in jail for a year. They're also, going to demand access to your phone, your laptop, whatever. And if you don't provide them with the access codes, guess what? You're going to jail for a year. So, yeah, it's very serious business. Now, I want to expand on all this. The Irish Parliament's debating this hate speech legislation, which has been circulating for months. It's not just something new, but it looks like it's going to pass. And like I said here previously, it's going to be a serious offense if you speak your mind on social media. Again, this is, you have to realize, folks, that Ireland is a small country. It is under the globalist thumb. It's under EU, Brussels, Davos, that whole fucking crowd. Okay. They want to take away every right you have. And right now, what is paramount to the globalist, particularly in Ireland and around the world, here in the United States too, is to take away your free speech from you. And now Ireland is the first country that has kicked in. I talked about this before. European Union passed a bill to all their member states back in August for online speech, hate speech, whatever. And Ireland is the first EU nation to trigger it. And the EU immediately contacted all the social giants yesterday, warning them of their obligations to thwart hate speech. Now, do you notice here? This is nothing to do with hate speech. This is the Irish people saying they've had enough with foreign invaders coming into their country and killing and injuring their citizens. Remember, this Irish government, again, completely anti-working class. They don't care about free speech. They care about lining their pockets. They are globalist. Well, the Irish people are starting to push back, and rightly so. And Conor McGregor, famous fighter from around the world, is leading the charge for free speech and illuminating how bad the Irish government has really fucked the country up. And they don't seem to be really concerned about stopping this. Now, I guess, your average Irish politician, as corrupt as they are, would say, well, we can't leave the EU because, they're giving us all the money to build our roads, to help our industry and whatnot. Bullshit. Ireland can thrive on its own. Britain did too. And my advice for Ireland is to leave the European Union ASAP because they are destroying the very fabric of Irish life. The Irish people will be a minority within their own country within the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah, you heard that right, folks. In the next few years, the Irish will be in the minority. That is to say, white Irish. And the Irish leaders, if you want to call them that, are compliant with their EU masters and letting this happen. And it's not just Ireland. Remember, France is now over 1/3 Muslim. You look what happened to Sweden and the Netherlands and Norway with the influx of Middle East migrants, and you can see uptakes in crime. There's no go areas in France and other Western European nations, and you'll soon have that in Ireland as well. The Irish are starting again to stand up against this tyranny because they've got an occupation government. That government in Ireland right now in Dublin, they don't give a shit about the average Irish citizen. And now they're taking away all their speech rights, where you can't even raise objections to your country being destroyed. Sound familiar? Certainly happening here in the United States with big tech, YouTube and Facebook. They still censor the shit out of me. And it wasn't too long ago here on this platform, X, formerly Twitter, that I was suspended a few times for making, statements like, Kyle Rittenhouse is a great American. Well, you're inciting violence, Matthew J. Bullshit. Guy was innocent. Courts proved it. So yeah, free speech is a big, big deal. And if that collapses and they win on this, Ireland or any other place, look out. Now, will it get to that point? I actually think that the Irish government is dumb enough because remember, they're globalist controlled. And the globalists they got deep pockets, folks. They run the Irish media. RTE is Irish National Media. And you've got to pay $200 a year for an Irish license to support that liberal garbage that comes out of them. RTE has turned off their comment section on X. Gee whiz, I wonder why they did that. Because they're promoting the globalist agenda in Ireland 24/7. I mean, you see, like here at Hillary Clinton, she's turned off her comments. A lot of even Sky News over in the UK, they've turned off their comments. Why would they have to turn off their comments, folks? Are they afraid of the truth? Well, they sure as hell are. But I'm very proud that my fellow Irishmen are fighting up and standing for the most basic of right, and that is free speech. Now, will this devolve into something really ugly? I hope not. I certainly don't advocate or promote violence in any stretch of the imagination. But I think the Irish government is going in that direction. They are going to start jailing people, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're prominent people. Now, will they put Conor McGregor in jail? Then you're talking something much larger there. And you'll see all the other EU puppets run to Ireland's defense in promoting censorship in their countries also. This is something that we really have to pay a lot of attention to, folks. Right now, the Irish are getting the full brunt of it. Just a week or two ago, the Irish Prime Minister, Leo, I can't pronounce his last name. He's of Indian extraction, if you believe that. He said there's too many white people in government. That was his exact words. Too many white people in government. Well, Ireland's 90% white. Of course, you're going to have a lot of white people in the government. But Leo is a committed globalist. They own that son of a bitch, lock and barrel, the globalist. Bought and sold. Hates the Irish people. Obviously hates the Irish people. How this guy got pushed into the prime minister position, I don't know. That's another big question there. But the Irish voter really has to make up their mind. The next general. The Irish Freedom Party, run by Herm Kelly, is a party very much like our America First agenda, our MAGA movement here. They believe in the rights of the Irish people. They are against globalism. They're against the exploitation of the Irish people. These are the parties that have to start making some huge inroads. Now, the leader of the party, Mr. Kelly of the Irish Freedom Party, he's been getting a lot of media attention around the world, and justifiably so. He doesn't want his country falling under tyranny. But I do think the dopes in Irish government are going to push this. They're going to start jailing people. And folks, we're not just talking about for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, years. They're going to start putting people in jail for free speech. What do you think happens to Ireland when they start doing that? Do you think there'll be any societal discord when they start putting decent people, average Irish citizens, in jail for speaking the truth about a government that's been actively working against them for years? How do you think that's going to play out in Irish streets? You won't just have unrest in Dublin, you'll have it throughout Ireland, and that will spread throughout Europe like wildfire. And the globalists know this. The globalists certainly in Brussels know this. The Davis crowd, they all know this. I think we are reaching that point in world history, not just Irish history or American history here. We're reaching that point. That's why I think, Alex Jones was going off about this today. I watched a little bit of his show this morning, that the globalists are being backed into a corner and that their tyranny agenda is starting to crumble. And that when that happens, it's like a cornered animal. They will strike back, potentially releasing another bioweapon, false flag events. That's where the globalists are. Remember, these people are sick. They're evil, probably devil worshiping scum. They will burn the country down, any country down that doesn't abide with their tyranny. This is where the average person around the world has to get off the fence and just fight for their basic liberties. You can't be lulled into this sleepwalking through civil liberties being torn away from you. You can't do that. And the Irish people are obviously demonstrating that. What's really amazing is that, the three biggest parties in the South, Irish Republic, Fianna Gael, Fianna Fáil, and Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin of all parties, the ones that, wanted to kick the Brits out, they're all in for this globalist agenda, folks. All in for massive immigration into Ireland. And you see the unrest that it's created. You wouldn't think that from Sinn Féin, but they are now a compromised party, a laughingstock of Ireland. Someone has to stand up for the Irish people. Right now, it's Conor McGregor. And quite frankly, I don't give a shit who it is. It's not going to be Bono from U2, that scumbag. Talk about a bought and sold person. He's in Joe Biden's pocket. Another guy that, Trump, another guy, Bono, TDS times 10. He's not going to speak for the Irish people. He's not going to step up and do the right thing. Conor McGregor is. And I know Conor's a little rough around the edges. I think political life would probably be a strain to him, and maybe he'd have difficulty navigating Irish politics. Who wouldn't? But Conor is playing a pivotal role now in speaking for the Irish people, that they've had enough. And they want to move on with some degree of normalcy. Right now, it's being taken away. Ireland has a massive homeless problem, a housing problem as well. And Irish tourism business is going to be struck. It has been hit because you've got the illegals or the migrants staying in third and fourth class hotels. Star hotels, sorry. Taking over college dormitories. Tourism is a major, major thing in Ireland, folks. And of course, we don't want any unrest like we saw last week, but it's inevitable at this point. Tyranny doesn't go over well. And the Irish have obviously a history of resisting tyranny. So we're going to see how this all pans out, folks. I certainly hope for the best. And the Irish people. One other thing before we get off here. Thanks to Elon Musk for supporting what's happening in Ireland. with the censorship. He wants to get rid of that censorship. Apparently, Twitter, Irish Twitter, there's a lot of shenanigans there, and he's pledging to clean that up. I think inevitably Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter, is going to be shut down in Ireland. I think that's on the menu, if not the rest of the EU. But we'll see how long the people take up with that. Okay. Let's move on to some other news here. Again, you're on the Matthew J. Show on X right now. We're here Monday through Friday between 4 and 6, and I usually post an hour beforehand exactly when I'm coming on. But also, the Matthew J. Show is the Next Gen USA and Centralist.tv. Last night was a great show with Rory Sauter. It's in my archives. Check it out. We talk about this very subject of the Dublin unrest, along with other topics. And we're also on Facebook, True Social, and Getter. You've probably been hearing, folks, about the respiratory illness, which is currently sweeping Beijing and north of Beijing provinces of China, where young people are becoming very ill. Apparently, it's also happening in the Netherlands in numbers they haven't seen in a while. Well, the Chinese authorities have already enacted mask and social distancing and other measures to combat this respiratory infection. Excuse me. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you seen this movie before? I'm sure you have. 2020. Now, the World Health Organization is saying that they're currently investigating it. And again, eerily similar to, nothing to see here. It's a respiratory illness that's, rampant now in Beijing or whatever. Could they be setting up the groundwork again for Scamdemic 2? And will the American people once again fall victim to it? I would like to think shows like the Matthew J. Show and other independent media have gotten the message out here. Do not comply under any circumstances. It has been amply proven through scientific medical literature that the mask did nothing in preventing COVID-19. If anything, wearing the mask was detrimental to your health. But there were enough dopes that took the experimental injections, wore the mask, sometimes 2 masks, social distancing, and all that other bullshit that disrupted our economy. And our economy has not recovered, regardless of what the installed White House puppet Joe Biden says. The economy never recovered. Just go in one of your local malls and see what happened to small business there, like I was today. Over 90% of those small businesses are closed in any given mall you'll go into. Very few malls now that are thriving. That was by design. When the scamdemic hit, small businesses were closed immediately. Companies like Amazon and Walmart and other, they all stayed open. But if you had a small business, you couldn't open. Particularly if you had a restaurant, you were really screwed. They look like they're going to try it again, folks. And you have to be on guard, and you have to be aware, focused, and most importantly, informed of what their agenda is all about. We all, we're talking straight up depopulation here. Some people are starting to use the numbers. 20 million were killed by the release of the bioweapon. Now, was it 98.9% survivable? Yes, it was. The average age of death for a COVID-19 person who became infected is 83. That's across the world. That was obviously the flu, kind of the flu on steroids. Now, will they release something that's much more lethal? You can't put anything past them, folks. You got to remember, I think the average person does not think that their government is that evil that they would just try to kill them. Sorry, folks. You got to wake up from your slumber. Just look what the likes of Dr. Fauci have done over the last couple of years. Green lighting funding at the Wuhan labs and Ukrainian labs and other U.S. biolabs around the world for gain of function capabilities. Why were they messing around with these bioweapons? Well, I'll tell you why. To release them on you and me and the rest of the world. The depopulation agenda is something serious. Ever get a chance, just YouTube other things like King Charles now, a few years back, and even now talking about there's too many people in the world. In fact, a lot of the royal family talked about that, but there's others, certainly here in America, Bill Gates and others. They openly talk about too many humans on the planet. Well, they're taking action, okay, with releases of the bioweapons. And there's a lot of people, and I haven't delved into as much as I can. I think there's a guy named Dan Stevens. He's on um, X, and I follow him. He follows me. He's very much in keeping track of these chemtrails. And I want to dig further into it. I would not put it past the government to be spraying these toxins in the air every day, frequently, and at night. You have the issue of 5G and how that affects the human body, our physiology. So these are a lot of things that we have to keep an eye on, because the entities that are supposed to protect us from this, whether it be the FCC, FDA, CDC, WHO, the last thing they want is, fairness and letting you know exactly what these products do. And of course, we saw that with the experimental injections. And they're still promoting this poison out there, particularly the Biden regime. They're really promoting it. We're on our own, folks. The cavalry's not coming. That's why it is imperative that you expand all your resources of knowledge. I listen to legacy media only because I want to see exactly what these globalist scum are doing. Which you still have to pay attention to that. You don't want to drown yourself in it. You watch CNN for more than a half hour, you're going to start getting literally physically sick. These people are possessed. That goes for Fox News too. Okay, their wannabe Republican or GOP bullshit. Their whole total focus is on making sure President Trump is not in the 2024 election. And I do want to expand on that in a second, because I want to get to something else. Yeah, the GOP seems like they're all in now for Nikki Haley. Poor Ron DeSantis. Nikki Haley's a joke. She's Democrat essentially. I don't give a shit. She puts a Republican title there. I want to talk about something. It was on Raw Alerts. This is they're very big on X. I follow them. The guy that runs it responded to me yesterday at some post I put out there, and he responded to me. Yeah, it was about the 12-year-old kid that stole the tractor out somewhere in the Midwest. And I commented that, boy, that kid can drive. And the guy that runs Raw Alerts responded to me. The lighting of the Rockefeller Christmas tree, the annual lighting of the Rockefeller Christmas tree in New York City, is tonight. Apparently, NYPD is anticipating a large crowd from pro-Palestinian demonstrators. You have the right to demonstrate, protesting. I know that what's going on over there is some serious stuff, and that's your business, whether you're pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. But anyway, these marches are overwhelming the NYPD. And why, you may ask? Well, you've got thousands of retirements just in the last 90 days from NYPD. You have the mayor, Eric Adams, saying because of the illegal immigrants in his city that they need to divert resources to, supplying things for these illegals. So the next couple new NYPD academy classes are canceled. Well, isn't that a great thing? So crime wasn't bad enough in New York City. Now they're going to have much less police. And this Rockefeller Christmas tree lighting could be a fiasco tonight, because NYPD is understaffed, overworked. This all goes back to the George Floyd incident, the convicted felon that overdosed in police custody, George Floyd. The whole movement sprung up, defund the police. And of course, the irony here is the most affected community by that defund the police is the minority community, is the Black community. They're the ones feeling the impact of defund the police. But their leftist and Democrat Marxist pals told them, oh no, all the police are bad. We know that's bullshit. You have a couple bad apples in every agency, but the overwhelming amount of police that I've interacted in, especially when I was back in my former position as a transit official, they were 100% dedicated to law and order. I don't think in my decades did I ever run into a rogue cop that gave me a problem. But the bought and sold media puts it out there that the police are at the root of problems in minority communities. And a lot of the minority community buys that bullshit. But right now, to tie it back into the NYPD situation and the potential for unrest tonight in New York City with the pro-Palestinian demonstrations is high. But this did not have to happen. You've got the AOCs of the world speaking about New York City, again, putting a big black mark on police and law enforcement by saying that they're corrupt as hell. If you have a breakdown of law and order, you've got a big problem, folks. But when you have governments that aren't responsive to their people and doing their job, well, bad things can happen, folks. And we are seeing that not just in America, we're seeing that around the world, where the Irish government thought it was a great idea to let tens of thousands of unvetted migrants come into the country. They weren't there to assimilate, folks. They were isolated. They couldn't speak the language. There's not enough jobs to go around. Globalists don't give a shit. The globalist agenda is what I've always said, and I will continue to say on a daily basis, to destabilize the planet. They want a one world government. They're not going to get it, which is people like you and me are going to fight against it. And it's a war, folks, we can't lose. But they have deep pockets, billions of dollars, and they own people. They own politicians. They own people in the banking industry, entertainment industry, you name it. They own it. So it's not going to be an easy battle. But again, it's a battle we must win. It's a war we must win, not just a battle, the war we must win. Because these people are unscrupulous. And you know, if anything can be said, like I'm discussing today in Ireland and the European Union, and here, of course, the importance of free speech to be heard. I mean, I can't believe here in 2023, I'm concerned that if X, for whatever reason, is shut down, or Elon says enough is enough, I'm getting out of this social media business, we're screwed. Because the big tech giants right now are still in censorship overdrive. And we will be very limited. I mean, I know there's other places out there, Telegram, Rumble, and other social media outlets. And soon to be Roar here on my network here, the nextgenusa.com network, centralist.tv. We're going to have our social media site called Roar. And of course, I'm going to let you know when that is operational. But we need things like Roar, where people can come and speak their mind and, most importantly, speak the truth. If you can't speak the truth, like on YouTube throws strikes at me. I mean, I can't even breach the topic of the bioweapon release and experimental injections, stolen elections. You can't even discuss that. And why is that? That's because the big tech giants don't give a flying shit about your free speech. They are globalist controlled. Okay? And you've got to wake up to that. And I hope you do. Let's see if there was any other things I wanted to get to, folks, today. If I missed anything. I think we pretty much hit everything. Just want to remind you again, thanks for watching the Matthew J. Show today. You can certainly find the Matthew J. Show in extensive archives on X, and as well as Facebook, True Social, Getter. Also, there are hundreds of podcasts out there on the Matthew J. Show on Blog Talk Radio and other, trying to think some of the other platforms. But you just got to put Matthew J. Show in your favorite search engine, and you'll come up with a lot of stuff. I'm also mentioned a lot in articles, particularly online publications. They quote my tweets or my posts from X frequently. So I'm glad we have that reach. And one of my other things on my wish list is President Trump to get back on X. Waiting patiently for that. And I hope he returns. I'm a little nervous at this point that he hasn't, but let's keep our fingers crossed and President Trump will come back to X. Well, thanks for joining us here today on the Matthew J. Show. We will be back tomorrow, and we hope to see